Hello my beauties, so this is going to be the video for $5 and up. Now usually this would be a much more fun video, like a really light-hearted video, really silly, but I decided I was going to do a video which is informative but also a little bit lighter. So we're basically going to be talking about which Ogham I would use for protection and why. Now if you don't know what the Ogham are, I'm going to use like a very basic analogy which purists would hate because they're not exactly the same. But the idea is they're basically like the Celtic runic system. They were a language that were formulated in Ireland, and each one is said to represent a tree. And they were originally formulated as fighting back against the church, which is wonderful for that kind of fighting spirit, right? We're refusing to be ostracized by the church, who are basically driving us out, especially with their new language, so we're going to come up with one, and it's kind of filtered into modern times as a form of divination. And so this beautiful connection between language, the language of trees almost, and then a divinational system in the modern terms. And most Ogham look like these. So these are actually Ogham staves carved from each one is carved from the particular tree of which it is associated with, and all of the different markings mean a different tree. And some of these are absolutely stunning. I mean, this one is for ivy and gort, and oh, just love it. And I love the noise. I love the noise. But we're actually going to work with the cards this time, just because it's easier for me to give you a physical representation of the artwork on the cards, and they have a nice little poem on the back. These cards are, oh goodness, by Lunaria Gold, and you can buy them on curiosiumetsy.com. I'm just going to hold that up. That may be backwards, so apologies. You might have to read backwards because I don't know why Logitech won't do it the right way around. I've tried. And I have picked the cards which I think most, an Ogham, which most represent energies of protection, and I'm going to just talk through why. I could have picked others, but we have a few here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 3 by 3, that's not bad, of the Ogham and the energies behind them. And you can obviously use the drawings of the Ogham, the sticks, the staves, the same way that you might use runes to create a protection amulet, to draw on candles for protection, to combine them into Ogham script, which is a sigil of protection, and so on and so forth. So the first one I would definitely call on is holly, or tin, fires of coal. 3 candles that illume every darkness, truth, nature and knowledge, the triads of Ireland is the quote on the back of this particular card. I'm just going to hold it up for a minute. Holly is obviously massively protective. It's spiky. It's by its very nature protective, do you know what I mean? You can tell it's one for protection. It's associated with Lunasa for whatever reason. I always think of it as being a Yule. It actually is said in the Celtic Wheel of the Year, which is usually associated with Robert Graves and is considered a modern invention, but still can be interesting to work with. It's considered to be the ruler of the 8th lunar month, from the 8th of July to the 4th of August. So there you go. And then from his version of the Battle of Trees, the holly, dark green, made a resolute stand. He's armed with many spear points, wounding the hand. It's used as a decorative wood for many things, including chess pieces, but also ritual knives or whip handles. It's heavy, hard, smooth, and very pale as a wood. So the holly berries are poisonous. Don't eat them. And that's, sorry, it just always amuses me when it's like, do not eat them. But often poisonous plants are thought of as being highly protective in their natural vibration, especially when they are poisonous, because if they can kill a human in their natural format, then the magic is very aggressive. It's also associated with the element fire and the ruling planets, sorry, being Saturn, Mars, and its gender is given as masculine, which I'm always a bit when they do that about herbs. There is obviously the Holly King and the Oak King, which most people will have heard of, where the two fight at the winter solstice and summer solstice, and that's likely why Holly is given as that month, because Holly triumphs at the summer solstice, and Oak is burned on the summer solstice fire, a sacrifice of the Oak King. Now Holly will rule as the days get darker and shorter. So there you go. So they have that fighting, that warrior, that aggressive energy that can come in for when you are doing warrior shield wall protection magic. And there are some cards in here that you could make an argument, and Ogham really, that you can make an argument for using them for protection in different ways, but I have not included them. So I've really included the shield wall style protection that I think most fit with that vibration, rather than some which can be used very destructively and some can be used to rebirth. But there you go. So all parts of the holly tree have influential powers of protection, said to guard against evil spirits and poisoning, which is strange as the humans are poisonous to humans. Well, not really, but I think that is that symptomatic thing of when something knows a thing, it can guard against it. So that is why that is associated with that. And a holly tree near the house is protection against sorcerers. Make a wand from holly to guard against mischievous spirits. What else is protection? There's other uses as well, of course, but that is some of the given meanings of holly and in terms of protection. For me, holly is very aggressive. It has a warrior energy to it. It and alder perhaps are the most aggressive of the protections, and there is sort of a two-way format idea around the energy of protection anyway. So one's very, very defensive and one's very aggressive, and so it really depends on what kind of spell you're looking at doing. So holly and alder are in the energy of the best defense is a strong offense camp, whereas the others tend to be a little more on the defensive, shielding yourself against incoming attacks. So holly definitely is and alder have that spear throw, aggressive vibe, where if you want to take the fight to someone or a situation, they are the spirits, devas, that you will call upon for that. Holly has a very strong standing the ground energy too, very borders, very, very enclosed spaces and protective of the home. A lot of these can be used to protect the home obviously, but holly really does have that kind of you will not pass. They're just you'll get torn to pieces if you pass. So you can try it, but it will cut you. It has that vibration to it. And the second one with that vibration is actually the next card, which is alder. Boop. And on the back, shield of warrior bands. When I have need for fight, for heaven or for your heart, against the powers of light or darkness, I shall spite the spark. Is the poem given on the back by the author for alder, and alder was actually used to make shields and staves as well, I believe, as well as dyeing things red, if my memory serves, which it might not be. I will go over and double check my information. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so alder is associated with the Celtic god Bran and his lost head. There is a whole video about Bran on my channel already, so I'm not going to go into him too much. but it also represents the space between earth and water, which are very holy, very spiritual to the Celts, and often considered entrances to the underworld, or the other world, where one might meet the gods. So it has that wisdom element to it as well. It's a pioneer tree. Alder is the first to colonize wet, treeless ground. It is welcome there as a great soil and provider nodules of special bacterium, taking nitrogen from the air and enriching the soil through its deep roots, which bring stability to banks and reduce erosion. So that's interesting. And it's Robert Graves' version of the Battle of Trees. The alders in the front line began the affray. Willow and rowan tree were tardy in array. It is associated with water, fire, earth and air, so it's got just about everything, and is ruled by Alvinus. I will say about Bran, so Bran was a warrior as well as associated with the Raven for his wisdom and his magic, so all of that feeds into the energy of Alder, and Bran obviously went to war to defend his sister's honour. In the Book of Taliesin, there is a riddle from the Battle of Trees where the name of Bran was worked out as the answer because the high sprigs of alder are on thy shield and thy sprigs of alder are in thy hand. Graves in the White Goddess explains that Bran's name was guessed by Gwydion from the sprigs of alder in his hand, because though Bran and Gwyn were the word for alder that were used in the poem, they do not sound similar. Gwydion knew that Bran, which meant crow or raven, also meant alder, and the Irish fern pronounced with the F as a V, so vern, and the alder was a sacred tree. Oh, well, I didn't know I've been pronouncing fern wrong, so vern for the alder. So there you go, we learned something together. As I mentioned earlier, it's associated with gateways into the underworld. Dark and mysterious fae live in these places, and if they don't want to be seen, they'll fly from the branches as crows or even take the form of a raven. Take care with use in magical workings if the tree blends all four elements and can be unpredictable and fickle in the extreme. Well, if you do need to pick from the tree, it is essential to leave a gift in return. I had say that for all trees, but there you go. Older ones are used in resurrection, for the resurrection of spring, and are a good choice in Northern European rituals for celebrations of Walpurgisnacht, the eve of May. The wood is tactile and beautiful, deepening to an amber pink blush, often with the dark red elf blood streaks. So there is the red. Making incense to burn when wanting to disperse negative feelings, using alder bark with a little lavender. So there you go, you can get rid of negative and use negative vibrations. Forming an amulet with an equal armed cross of alder, adding the cones if you have them will help carry, when carrying it will help with doubt, stress or fearful situations. So it's basically very protective against other kinds of magic, but also stress and sadness and fear and all those things that right now are quite sad. But it does have more of a warrior vibe undertone to it as well, because of that. It's more balanced than the holy energy in terms of there is a magic versus and warrior vibe to it. So it's like an enchanted, it's like in the middle, beautifully spaced in the middle, and it will protect you from stress, sadness, fear, things that can be caused by other people casting magic and things of that nature, or people just causing that in general. So next up we have oak, which is Dor, the highest of trees. Thus I play the enchanter's part, the scatter bliss around, and not a tear nor aching heart should in the world be found, the Four-Leaf Shamrock. I personally feel that oak is the Ogham of the deep roots, and that's what I've called it since I connected with it, and I will always call it that. That is my interpretation of it. It's associated with the summer solstice and is used for protection, health, strength, money, healing, potency, and luck. Oak, though, is one of the only trees that can survive being hit by lightning. So it also has a sovereignty. It's part of the sacred triad of oak, ash, and thorn. Part of the 7 noble trees, and has been thought of as the king of the woods. It definitely has a sovereign energy to it. It's very much reminds me of the god trees in Game of Thrones, but it has like this ancient primal, I will not be moved, I am deep rooted in the land, I speak for the land, I am of England in particular, because there are so many famous English oaks, and they're so tied into the history and the story and the sovereignty of our land, that it's a very English thing. English oak is known as a fuel that gives off heat and burns slowly. The magical need fire is always kindled from oak, sparked into life in times past by rubbing 2 oak sticks together. The fuel of the midsummer solstice fire is traditionally oak. And there's the poem from the Battle of Trees. With foot beat of the swift oak, heaven and earth wrung, stout guardian of the door is his name in every tongue. So there you go. Associated with fire, sun, and considered masculine. Often associated with the thunder gods because it is struck by lightning and can survive. There you go. I mentioned that earlier. It definitely has that being very rooted in the earth and is not going to be moved. It's associated with the masculine power of the Hern god, Hern the hunter, or Kronos. A legend from Wales tells of Merlin's oak, a tree said to have been planted from an acorn by the magician himself on the outskirts of Carmarthen, which is said to have been his birthplace. He laid on a tree a powerful spell of protection, which would bring disaster to the town if the tree were ever felled. The tree lived to a great age before it was struck by lightning and burned, but even then its blackened trunk was preserved behind railings for over a century. When it was eventually removed to make way for a roundabout, Carmarthen was badly flooded. So there you go. Two twigs of oak bound in an equal arm cross with red thread should be hung in the house as a charm against all evil. That's also said of rowan, by the way, so it's more traditionally rowan that I've seen that for. And acorns placed in the windowsills guard against lightning. Burn a handful of oak leaves to purify an atmosphere in a dwelling place. And you can wear a oak apple as wear a red thread as around your neck for prosperity and protection. For me though, it doesn't quite cover how I feel about oak. Oak is the energy of the deep places, the roots down into the earth. It is the unconquerable. It is the unshiftable. It is also a doorway into the world beyond. It's one of, oak, ash and thorn. And so traveling into the underworld through the roots of oak is something that I do quite easily and quite a lot. So it definitely has that vibration of resilience more than anything else. So then we have Rowan, Louis, delight of the eye, the flame. I fled the little earth, I climbed above the rising sun, I met a morning in a blaze, the dead aviator is the poem on the back of this particular card. This is definitely the protector against the enchantment of others. Rowan is particularly present in Celtic mythology as a warning sign, a warning, an indicator, that's where my brain bled those in together, of magic being afoot. So it protects your psychic abilities, your psychic powers from interference, and it can also boost your own protection. It's also known as the witch's tree, which I love about it, and is found in many protection charms. It's associated with fire, the sun and the moon, and is considered changeable for its gender. Good, they should all be that. It is sacred in many cultures, governed by the Celtic gods Lugh, Dagda and Brigid, by the Welsh Ceridwen, as well as the Great Norse Nordic god Thor, and the Germanic Hecate. The tree known as the Quicken, the tree of life with its scarlet berries, may have looked like living drops of blood, proof to the ancestors of life force, and was believed to have mighty powers of protection. It does, it's beautiful. I love Rowan trees. I love all trees, but you know. Rowan was said to have saved Thor's life from a river. The Celtic druids were thought to have made frames of the dry skins of sacrifices from rowan branches and to use twigs to divine metals in the same way. In Ireland, the goddess Brigid, the young and blooming triple aspect of triple goddess, apparently made her bows and arrows from rowan. Yeah, for justice. In folklore, rowan was widely venerated as the strongest protection over malicious magical influences. Yeah. And here we have the rowan cross with the red thread in it. In spite of it being the tree of life, it was thought that a spike of rowan could be driven into a corpse to keep the soul from walking. The 5-pointed pentacle at the base of each rowan berry was considered of magical importance. Many a cottager had rowan growing nearby against the evil eye of both witch and fae. It was recognised as a bad omen to uproot a rowan tree, to cut it with a knife, or to lose one in a storm. It was thought to safeguard against lightning and fire. Wear a garter of young rowan bark, the smooth green inside against your skin, as a safeguard against dark witches and counter spells. Cure an illness by putting a small slit in the bark, rowan trunk, and taking a hair from the sick person and pushing it into the cut. The illness will heal with the bark. So there you go, it protects against illness too. But probably if you could only get 2, I would go with oak and rowan. Because they're the big hitters of protection magic. So the last one that oh no, I just got too much, sorry. I was going to mention Neon, Ash, and Blackthorn Strafe. Now I'm just going to mention Blackthorn Strafe quickly because that's going to be a whole thing unto itself. This is going to be I Can't Witch Without this month, and is very sacred to the Morrigan, so we're going to be talking about that at much more length in a different video, so we're not actually going to talk about that one just yet. I'm a tease, I know. And to finish up, we will talk about Neon, Ash, Neon. If you be too hard, you will be broken. If you be too feeble, you will be crushed. The instructions of King Cormac, which is found within Celtic mythology. The ash tree is also thought to be sacred to the Nordic tradition as the world tree, and the reason that I'm happy to mention Nordic tradition is I feel like they cross over quite a lot of points. There is historical evidence for the two having met, and basically some Vikings kidnapped Celtic women and made off to, I think it was Sweden, to start up a new life with their Celtic ladies. So it's a whole thing, and so there is a lot of merging with some of the lore, and sadly I don't think there is a world tree in the Celtic tradition, which is a shame. Did I not pull up Ash? Did I not pull up Ash? My gods. Ash is always a weird one for me. I actually find Ash quite difficult to connect to for whatever reason. I can't tell you why. I love the keys, the Ash keys that fall from it. It's ruler of the 3rd lunar month, 18th of February. That might be why, till the 17th of March. Powers of protection, health, courage, and matters concerning the sea. See, for me it's a little bit more on the magic side, a little bit more like unlocking things like that through the spiritual ecosystem, seeing the spiritual ecosystem as another symbol for the world tree, so it kind of has that vibe of connecting to the all for me. So in terms of protection, I have to double check my information. Ash makes the best oars. Go a-sailing. Uncouth and savage was the fir, cruel the ash tree, turn not aside a foot's breadth, straight at the heart runs he. Robert Grace's version again of Battle of Trees. It is ruled by fire and the sun, so again you can see the correspondences there between that and protection. Ash, called Usin in Gaelic, Ask in Norse, and Ish in Celtic, was the tree known as the world tree Yggdrasil. Oh, so they actually start off with that. Viking warriors were sometimes known as the Aishling, the men of the ash, most likely because of their mastery of battle spears made from ash wood. I mean, that's interesting. And then it talks about Yggdrasil, but we know about Yggdrasil. We want to know about the Celtic side. This is the problem, I think. I've ran into problems finding Celtic information. Yeah, there was a problem with Celtic information with the ash tree. Go on to magic then. An ash wand picked at the correct moon between February and March, dedicated by rubbing a favourite healing oil from base to tip and passing through the flame of a white candle and then touching the soil will bring strength and confidence to any healing magic. That sounds complicated. The ash wand is a gift from the Tree of Life and may be used in any ritual connected with birth. To protect against drowning at sea, make a cross from ash twigs. We are hearing a lot about crossing twigs. It's interesting. And bind with 7 knotted golden threads, or fashion a small carving, and carry it with you on a journey. Make a lucky charm by pressing an ash leaf and an even number of leaflet pairs onto a stalk, preferably from an even ash tree. One that has an even number of branches. Keep it under your pillow. Pillow, I can't read. Putting into the 4 corners of your home some ash leaves also serves protection against malign influences. Burning ash barks in an incense will bring prophetic dreaming. So it definitely has that magical element where it crosses over between protection and magic and divination. So maybe the forewarned energy there would be the best use of ash nui in the magic for protection. So those are the Ogham that I recommend using in protection magic. I'm just going to hold them all up again, just in case you would like to see the images again. So we have holly, alder, oak, Big Daddy, rowan, Big Daddy, or Mama, you know, we're not giving them. Strafe, which we're going to talk about at length later, I know I'm teasing you all, and ash. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this little video, just inspiration for some Ogham for protection work, and till next time, many blessings.